Good morning. I am Chrissy Kim, the president of your board of trustees. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and seasoned. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are here with us. Whether you join us in person or online, we are glad you are here. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. As we do each week, and as we begin our gathering, I respectfully acknowledge that I speak to you today from occupied Puyallup and Coast Salish ancestral lands. I pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to their descendants and all Indigenous people. We are joining you again today in multi-platform mode. You'll see some of us here in the sanctuary and others on Zoom. We continue to watch COVID risk levels and will continue to let you know if there are any changes in upcoming services. For those meeting here in person, we invite you to join us for coffee time following the service. And for those in person, this facility is equipped with a hearing assistance system. Devices are available at the table in the back of the sanctuary. The Safe Parking Group is continuing collection of Safeway cards in denominations of $5 to $50 for our guests staying in their cars in our parking lot. And our guests will be able to use these gift cards for either food or gasoline. As always, details for upcoming services can be found on our website or in the e-news. If you want to submit information to be included in the e-news or in these Sunday's announcements, please submit that information by Tuesday. The Tuesday deadline allows us to confirm that there are no conflicting events, time for editing or adding additional information for clarity. You'll appreciate that these steps take time, so that's why the Tuesday is the deadline. We're also using a new email address for submissions that you can find in the e-news, and it is tahomauunews@gmail.com. Thank you to all of you who've been volunteering your time and talents to make our congregation better. Volunteering opportunities include preparing coffee for our time together after worship service, and we invite you to volunteer by emailing us at board@tahomauu.com. Coming up the last weekend in February and the first weekend in March, there are opportunities to connect for coffee, tea, and conversation. 3 of these gatherings will be in person at a member's home, and 1 gathering will be online on Zoom. In addition to these 4 events, a family event is being planned, and we're looking for a person to host this family event. Details for registering with Susan Kunkel can be found in the weekly e-news. Next Sunday, Reverend Linda will lead our interactive worship service entitled A Perfect Heart, when we'll explore what it means to love and be loved. Today, Reverend Linda leads our service with her sermon focusing on who we are and what we share as Unitarian Universalists. Now, let us join together in worship.
Good morning. Our opening words today are by Monica Tennyson Jacobson. What is it that calls you here, that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness? What is it that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, when we share our truths, when we share this air, our hearts. It is good to be together in worship this morning. We had started our custom of having a member of the congregation light the chalice, and yet again, I forgot to recruit someone. But I wonder if Ro and Eli, you would be willing to light the chalice this morning. They haven't practiced, so, you know. Go ahead.
Now, if you could join me as we light this chalice. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who've gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come. Now, if you turn in your hymnals to 145, that's in the
Please
gray.
join me in the gray hymnal, hymn 145, that's Tranquil Streams.
There we go. Yes, it turned on, which is really awesome. I love when that happens. I'd like to invite any children or those who are young at heart to join us up here at the front. I have my little surprise bag. We're gonna have a little surprising thing today. All right, so nice to see you all this morning. Always good to have folks here. So I have my little secret bag here, and it has some surprises in it. Do you have any idea what might be in here? Anybody? Anybody? An elephant? A what? A snack. Oh, shoot, giraffe. I was thinking snack would be a more fun thing to have. All right, so I have a couple of things. Let's see if you can guess what they are when I take them out. Do you know? A pencil. Isn't that awesome? It's got stripes. I mean, it's a really nice pencil. It's a really nice pencil. And let's see if you can identify this other thing. Ready? 1, 2, 3. An eraser. Yes. What do these two things have in common? What makes them, how do they relate to one another? Do you know? Can you guess? Have you thought about it? Do you know? Okay. Do you know? Shall we experiment and see if we can figure out what it is? Okay, look, I happen to have a piece of paper too. So, Olive, do you want to come help? Is that okay? No? Would you like to come help? No. Okay. Well, that's all right. So, Eli, would you come help me? Thank you, Eli. All right. So let's see what happens when we rub the pencil on the piece of paper. What do you think? What do you think? What happens? Yeah, go ahead. Wow. Magic, right? It's a pencil. That's what it does. Okay. So, and what does the eraser do? Anybody know? Anybody got this? It erases. Awesome. Would you like to do some erasing? You would? Okay, cool. So let's see how that works. See how that works. How it comes off. Yeah. Nice and hard. Nice and hard. It's sometimes I think Eli wrote a little hard there, but that's okay. It took a lot off. Very good. Thank you. Well, thank you, Eli. Thank you both for that. So there's something else that our pencil and eraser have in common, which is really, really cool. So pencils. Now, we think about pencils as something that's been around for a really, really long time, right? That there always been pencils, right? People had to write. But way back when, in the beginning of the 19th century, so like two, is it really?
Yeah.
Dang, how did that happen? Like 200 years ago, pencils were not as nice as they are now. They actually were really smeary, so that when you wrote with it, if your hand went across where you'd written, it would smear all over the place. It was really, they were not really a very good thing until someone figured out that if you took graphite, which is what makes the pencil write, and you blended it with clay, that it wouldn't smear as much, which was really magical. And one of the people who was part of that was a guy named Henry David Thoreau, right? Who was a Unitarian, which is just so cool. I learned this a couple of years ago, and I was like, wow, he was one of the people who invented the pencil as we know it. I was like, total. Are you impressed, friends? Are we glad to be part of the people who made a pencil, right? The pencil that we had. So right after I had learned that he made the pencil, I was out on a hike with some friends, some Unitarian friends. I was living over in England at the time. And at the end of our hike, we were sitting down and we were having our lunch. It was really lovely. And my friend Caroline said, I learned the most interesting thing lately. I learned that Joseph Priestley was another Unitarian. He started in England and eventually came to the United States and founded Unitarian churches here in the United States. I found out that Joseph Priestley invented the eraser. Whoa, exactly. Whoa. And so like, I'm getting that y'all aren't getting how important that is and how interesting it is, but it's really important and interesting. And this is why. So if you write with a pen, it's permanent, at least relatively so. I mean, there's some pens that you can erase, but mostly if you want to do something that you can correct or change, you want to write it in pencil, right? So that you can then erase it and change it. And one of the things that we're talking about today is how in our Unitarian Universalist faith, we are people of the pencil and the eraser. Am I right, folks? Thank you very much. We are people of the pencil and the eraser because we know that the things that we believe can change, that we can understand things differently at different times, and that this is part of what makes us different from a lot of people, a lot of other religious communities who have a single truth that they believe and that they continue to work with. There are other people, there are plenty of folks who are also people of the pencil and the eraser, but they ain't got this heritage, friends. So that's my time for all ages for you. Remember that it is, for when we talk about what we believe, we can always change it when we find out new information or when we learn something that helps us see things differently. So thanks for coming up. I invite the adults present to rise and make a tunnel. Our kids we're gonna sing them out with the words that'll come up on your screen. Head down to as you go, may your heart beat.
We're going to pause here to invite you into a time of generosity. This congregation is sustained and supported by the contributions of our members and friends. There will be a basket passed around the sanctuary for each of you to make a contribution as you are able. We can also receive your donation via text or through the homepage of our website. Thank you. Please join us in the dedication of our offering. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls.
I invite you now into a time of quiet and reflection together. Let's begin with these words by my colleague, Sarah Lawal, and then we'll come into a time of stillness with each other. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, close your eyes if you're comfortable with that, and let us join our hearts. Spirit of love and of life, holy mystery, may we hear the voices of the past mingled with the voices of today, guiding us into the future, into our own becoming, with principle and purpose toward the liberation for all people, with love as our common calling. Let us hold love at the center. May we continue to cherish the earth with humility and reverence, honoring our place in the interdependent web. Let us hold love at the center. May we celebrate all sacred beings, diverse in culture and theology, learning from one another and embracing difference in our search for truth and meaning. Let us hold love at the center. May we keep reaching for belovedness, for diverse multicultural community, for the collective thriving of all people where all voices are heard, as we work to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. Let us hold love at the center. May we welcome transformation, seeking spiritual growth, adapting to our changing world, evolving in this living tradition, never complete, never perfect. Let us hold love at the center. May we cultivate a spirit of generosity, of gratitude and hope, freely and compassionately sharing our faith, our presence, our resources, centering connection and the relationships of mutuality. Let us hold love at the center. May we always declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent worth and dignity. May we recommit to one another with our time, our wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Let us hold love at the center. Let us keep love at the center. I invite you to pause now in a few moments of stillness. So may it be. Amen.
As Linda has brought up so eloquently already this morning, change is part of our culture. So I'd like to read for you the new suggested language from the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association, section C-2.1. Purposes. The Unitarian Universalist Association will devote its resources to and use its organizational powers for the religious, educational, and humanitarian purposes. Its primary purposes are to assist congregations in their vital ministries, support and train leaders, both lay and professional, to foster lifelong faith formation, to heal historic injustices, and to advance our Unitarian Universalist values in the world. The purpose of the Unitarian Universalist Association is to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love. Section C 2.2. Values and covenant. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on a foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared lives and values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of our living, our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love.
Before I bring in my sermon, I want to share with you all the news that I got this week that our former intern minister, Arian Babcock, the Reverend Dr. Arian Babcock, that would be, has finally completed the last part of her training to become an Air Force chaplain as of this week. And she has headed home back to Japan, where she will begin her service as a fully fledged and accepted chaplain in the Air Force. I'm so delighted and pleased for her. Those of you who've been around for a while know that she was working towards this for a very long time. And it's just such a pleasure to know that there are folks in the military who are going to benefit from her love and care, and skill and talent and, all of that stuff. So one of the great gifts that I received from a friend many, many years ago now was something that we don't really prize any longer. It was a clever message for my answering machine. Remember answering machines when we had answering machines? Now, more than that, it wasn't just a clever message for my answering machine. It was a clever message in 4-part harmony. Even more fun. You see, this friend had this incredibly wonderful answering machine message that he had made himself. And this was it. Phone is ringing, but I ain't home. Leave your message at the beeping tone. Can't tell you how long. Will you have to wait? Or will I call you back? Or will I hesitate? Don't you want that? Right? Don't you want to and we don't do this anymore. I think it's really, people will say, you know what to do. Beep. I mean, we've lost something, I think. Well, I was so jealous that I told him when we were having dinner at his house one night. I think actually it was Christmas Eve and we were eating Chinese food. I mentioned to him that I was really jealous of his message. And he, on the spot, wrote a message and then taped me singing it on a fancy little machine he had, and then laid down 3 lines of harmony. He tried to sing with me, not working. He put harmony, it was bad. Anyhow, so we did this. Now, this is the message that he created for me. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a strange occurrence if I'm home when you call me. So leave your name and number at the beeping tone, and I'll call you back when I get back home. Now, I tell you this not only because I love to have us laugh and feel joyous in worship, but because of an answering machine story that I had read years earlier in the newsletter for the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. It was in a column that I had not seen before and didn't ever see again. It was in a column, and this was a newsletter, I have to tell you, that arrived in paper in the post, right? So that long ago. And it was called, Hey, I Could Use That. And it was a story about somebody else's answering machine message. And it said this is not an answering machine. It's a questioning machine. And you know what the questions are. Who are you? And what do you want? Take care before answering. Philosophers and wise people for millennia have attempted to answer this question without success. Now, I don't know about you, but I think I would have had to hang up right then. That, that person would never get an actual answer, right? No one would leave a message there. But those are essential questions. Am I on still? Can you still hear me? But I'm not on. Okay. Hello, hello. There we go. But those are essential questions. Who are you and what do you want? They're intimidating questions too. And some of you will know, we're talking about the bylaws for our Unitarian Universalist community, that larger community of us. And we are in the midst, frankly, or honestly, of changing a part of our bylaws, the part that's called the principles and purposes. In some measure, I don't know what's going on with our mic today. In some measure, we've been asked those same two questions. Who are we and what do we want? Now, it's a requirement in the state of Massachusetts that bylaws contain a statement of principles and purposes. And the UUA was chartered in Massachusetts. And so we have such a statement. When Unitarianism and Universalism, which grew as two separate movements, joined in 1961, representatives from the American Unitarian Association and the Universalist Church of America got together and they crafted a set of principles that we put into our bylaws. Now, just to give you a feel for what that language was, right back in 1961, what that language was, here's what it said. That their purpose was to strengthen one another in the free and disciplined search for truth as the foundation of our religious fellowship, to cherish and spread universal truths taught by great prophets and teachers of humanity in every age and tradition, immemorially summarized by the Judeo-Christian heritage as love to God and love to man. Are you getting this? To affirm, defend, and promote the supreme worth of every human personality, the dignity of man, and to the use of the democratic process in human relations. To implement our vision of one world by striving for a world community founded on the ideals of brotherhood, justice, and peace. And 5, to serve the needs of member congregations and fellowships, to organize new churches and fellowships, and to extend and strengthen liberal religion. And finally, to encourage cooperation with men of goodwill in every land. You might get that around the late 70s, the feminists were having a little difficulty with some of this language. Yeah. Are we back? Yay. All right, Michael, will you put up the first slide then, please? Are we back to everyone? Yes, it looks like we are. Welcome back, friends. Sorry that you missed a few moments of our together time. So we're looking at here in the service, we're looking at the principles and sources in our hymnals. Michael, are you able to put the slide up? It'll be in another minute. All right, what we're going to do, friends, go ahead and start, take a look at it, read through some of those. If you've not seen them before, they're pretty fabulous statements. And we're going to read through them in a minute when we can include our friends online. Or maybe we'll just go ahead and read and they can hear. What do you think? Shall we do that? Let's read it together. Let's start at the very top. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And what I'd invite you to do now that we have read that together is to pause for a moment and center in on one that spoke to you right in this moment, one that touched you somehow. Just take a moment with that. And then for you here in the congregation, I'd like you to share with someone who's nearby you, or a couple of someones. You can make a little threesome if you need. And what spoke to you this morning? What do you appreciate? Have a moment to tell each other. I think there are folks behind you could talk to, Bob. And y'all at home, why don't you write in the chat, what touches you, what moves you, what speaks to you this morning? And start to bring your conversations to a close. All right. Let's come back together. Last words. It reminds me of once when I started ringing the bell to get people to stop talking to each other in a moment like this, and nobody would quiet down. And so, and so I just started ringing it continuously, just like, and everybody kept talking until someone came up to me and said, "Do you know how annoying that is?" Unitarian Universalists. So that time back in the 1980s, the creation of this was a real time of transformation for our religious community as we engaged in these conversations. Like I said, thousands of people took part in making this happen. And then the final edits were done among a small commission, I think 6 or 7 people. But that was after they had transcribed all of the information that had come to them, and then done some deep thinking and talking with one another and feeling into what this was about. As I said, this was initiated by a group of women who wrote their own set of principles, and then asked that a process be created, because just as I'm absolutely certain that first batch was written by a group of white men, these women knew that it didn't make sense for a small group of white women, to do the same thing. So we engaged in a broader process. Now, this new version, right? Those of you who've been around for a while, it became just completely beloved. We built religious education curricula around it. Some of my colleagues in ministry now grew up as Unitarian Universalists, and they remember the rainbow path that someone created for RE, and is feeling a little bit of grief over losing them. These are very beloved in our community. And it's 40 years later, friends. 40 years later, and we're asking those same questions again. Who are you and what do you want? It's time for us to do it again. And the reason it's time, one of the reasons why it's time for us to do it again, is because we are the eraser and pencil people, right? Our heritage is that of the eraser and the pencil. We grow and change. We come to new understandings that need a different articulation of what is important and how we think of ourselves in the world. We know so many different things about ourselves and our lives than we did 40 years ago, right? Right? I mean, how much have we learned? So 2 years ago, the UUA gathered a commission again. It's called the Article 2 Commission, glamorous name. But that's where it is in our bylaws, is Article 2. And they invited the change. The commission has been working over those 2 years, talking to people, holding online gatherings, soliciting feedback during the hard work of reimagining what that section of our bylaws might be like for the next millennium. I don't want it to go that far. Just one millennium would be fine. Who are we and what do we want now? So a month ago, I showed you the image that they came up with, the commission. Michael, you can put that slide up if you would, please. When I was talking about this last month. And the folks that found, the people who were putting this together, the commission, found that these were the words that came up again and again and again. Are we able to get that slide up, Michael? We're working on it. Yeah. No, it's not up there. Sorry. Up. Yay! Woo! So this is the image that they created. And those of you who have, Michael, can we turn the captions off for that computer? Is it possible to do that? Thank you. All right, so we can all see all of the words. Now it's almost exactly like the image I showed you last month, but now we have those beautiful little rainbow swirls around it to show us that everything interacts one with the other. Love is at the center. Love is at the center. Of course, love is at the center, and surrounding it are the words that explain how that love is embodied. One of the words, the first word, is interdependence. Recognizing our interdependence, the importance of care for the web of life that sustains us here on Earth. We recognize that there is nothing and no one who can be separated from us. That's that word right up at the top. The next word is equality. And we need to work for equality because each person has worth and dignity in the world. Each person needs to be treated fairly, to have the same opportunities, to have safety and transformation. To have the same opportunities to be safe and taken care of. The next word is transformation because, as I said, we are the pencil and eraser people, right? Change is ongoing around us all the time, whether we notice it or not. Pluralism, because none of us holds all the truth and all of us can learn and grow from diverse beliefs and ideas. Generosity, because in our, sorry about this, generosity in our resources and our ability to love. And finally, justice, because that's what love looks like in public, because we know in our bones, that's what everyone deserves. So I invite you to take a moment again and notice what speaks to you. So the words again, interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. Just pause for a moment to identify kind of where you connect in that new list. And then again, I invite you to share with a few folks what that is, what speaks to you in this new list. And y'all online, you can put it in the chat for each other. All is well. Mom is there. And let us come back together, my friends. Over 100 years ago, someone named Lewis Fisher said this about Universalists, one of the threads of our denomination. He said, Universalists are often asked to tell where they stand. The only true answer to this question is that we do not stand at all. We move. We do not stand still, nor do we defend any immovable positions. We grow as all living things forever must do. The main question with Universalists are not where we stand, but which way we are moving. Our main interest is to perceive where is true progress, and to keep our movements in line with that, and not allow ourselves to move round and round in circles simply like a squirrel in a cage. Old worn phrases are always losing their meaning and must forever be finding new meanings in the light of new experiences. We too are moving and changing all the time, and we are continuing on in this process of change that we're talking about this morning. There will be more listening sessions coming up this spring to see if further modifications are needed. And when the delegates from congregations online and in person in Pittsburgh gather for our General Assembly, that is the deliberative body that ultimately governs our wider organization, when people get together in June, they'll have the first of 2 votes to make this a part of our bylaws. There will be another vote the following year to add them more permanently, but not forever, because we are the people of the eraser and pencil, right? New times will demand new articulations and new ideas. But in this time that we have right now, let us be centered on love that is powerful and healing, nourishing and uplifting. May our love move us to work for equity and justice. May our love remind us of the depth of our interdependence with each other and with our blessed planet that is our home. May our love help us grow in generosity, and may it help us to celebrate the many, many paths there are to understanding and possibility. So may it be with us all. Amen and blessed be. I invite us now to take a few moments of stillness together. If there's been something in the service today that has touched you, I invite you to set an intention for how you will take it out into the world. So may it be. Amen. Our closing hymn is in the Teal Book, number 1017, Building a New Way. Thanks to Sheila for being our song leader today. Yay, Sheila. These closing words from Susan Carlson. We leave blessed by our connections to one another, to the spirit of life. Walk lightly, that you see the life that is below your feet. Spread your arms as if you had wings and could dance through the air. Feel the joy of breath in your lungs and the fire in your heart. Live to love and be a blessing to this earth. So may it be with us all until we are together again. Amen and blessed be.
If you could join me as Linda is extinguishing the flame with the closing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now, if those of you in the sanctuary could rise as you are able and join us in our closing blessing song. The words are on the screen. You can use hand movements if you'd like.